And welcome back. We are finally ending the season. This is the first of two videos. We are recapping today the Women's NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, a remarkable ending to an incredible season. We got to enjoy some amazing performances, even some questions. Is that track real? Has it been measured properly? And it's always funny because we always have this same conversation when it comes to Hayward Field, and it's been measured, remeasured, checked, and checked again with every possible measurement. And yet there's still questions and there's still doubt. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. We're going to review every single event, starting with the shortest event to the longest, and then we'll hop right into the field. We had several NCAA records, meet records. We even had a few world records this weekend, so a lot to talk about. But let's get started right away with the women's 100, and that's Shanice Walker of Florida State. A surprise. No, I didn't get that right. I actually guessed 14 out of 21 correct for women. So very, very happy with my performance here. But I did go with Brianna Selby of USC. Unfortunately, she did not earn the title. It was Shanice Walker of Florida State. And I know that many of us watched the preliminary race or the semifinal race, I should say, and we saw Adeja Hodge run that 10.63, and it created a firestorm on social media. And I think all the wind came out of her sails after that incredible 4x1 race, where she ran an outstanding backstretch. Because a lot of the athletes who competed in a 4x1 looked a little tired at the end of that 100, except for Shanice Walker. She had a great start and didn't let up. She led from cover to cover, and it was very similar to her performance indoors in the 60-meter dash. She's the first Jamaican woman to win the 100 meters since Ramona Burchell of Alabama. Been a while, but no shock that we would have a Jamaican win it here, especially since, as of late, many Jamaican young women have stayed in Jamaica to be coached by their great coaches down there. But it was nice to see Shanice Walker of Florida State bring the title back to Tallahassee. It's been a while. Now, moving on to the 200, now we talk about Adeja Hodge. Yes. She set the NCAA record in the semifinals in the 100, running a 10.63, and in the finals of the 200, she set that as well, 21.68. Two NCAA records in one weekend. Incredible performance. She reminds me a lot of the great Debbie Ferguson before she became Debbie Ferguson McKenzie. Debbie Ferguson was the great sprinter for the University of Georgia by way of Bahamas. And here is Adeja Hodge of the British Virgin Islands performing very, very well, dealing with all the controversy, unfortunately, of her, expected drug punishment for last year for the 17 months. And here she is coming back running incredible times, a 10.63, a 21.68, and she obliterated that field. And it was a great field, but she won by almost a full half second in a sprint. That is an incredible performance. You see in the picture there how much lead she had over the competition, so it wasn't really any doubt. But now let's move on to the 400 and to her teammate, Dejanay Oakley of the University of Georgia. So, University of Georgia did something this weekend, or has done something that hasn't been done in the NCAA. I want to say probably ever. I'm not sure if this has ever been done, but now they own the NCAA record in all three running sprints, not including the hurdles. They own the 100, the 200, and the 400-meter NCAA record. Dejanay Oakley ran an incredible race, 48.79, and at one point in the last 100 meters, it looked like Madison White was going to pull it out. It really did. Madison White of USC. When it came off the turn, Madison made her move, and it looked at least up into the 50-meter mark she had it in the bag, and that Dejanay Oakley had another gear, and Madison White had no answer. Oakley clocks a 48.79 to run the NCAA record, another meet record, and Madison White becomes the third woman under 49 seconds in NCAA history, running a 48.97 for USC. Two incredible 400-meter runners. We don't know what the future holds for both of them, other than the fact that we will probably be hearing their names on the international circuit in the future. That was a fantastic 400-meter race, very similar to the men's, but I believe this ended better. Um, and I, picked Dejanay, and I'm not shocked, but I was really impressed with Madison White's performance. I thought she timed her move at the right moment, and she was pulled by Dejanay. She had the inside lane, and it just looked like that was what you expect for your 400-meter runner to do, but Dejanay had an extra gear that she did not. Now moving to the 100 hurdles, we're talking about the defending champion, Aaliyah McCormick of the University of Oregon. And that was a great 100 hurdle finish, especially compared to last year, which to me was very lackluster, specifically in the time range. This year, it lived up to hype. A 12:47, and she was taken pretty much almost to the last hurdle by Emmy Scales of Kentucky. But it was clear coming off that last hurdle, really the last three hurdles, that Aaliyah McCormick had about a half step on Emmy. But Emmy Scales trips over the last hurdle and falls, and unfortunately, she falls into another lane and gets DQ'd, making it easier for Aaliyah McCormick to win on her home field. That 12:47, an incredible performance. I think, Aaliyah, we can expect to see more of her, I think, on the professional circuit. I think she's proven with a time like 12:47, and she ran a 12:44 earlier in the season at regionals, that she's going to have the speed and the talent and the ability necessary to compete on the professional circuit. So, best of luck to her. She is a senior. I've enjoyed watching her run, specifically this year, because it just seems like she has timed her season smart. She didn't start early indoors, she waited to about close to mid season, and the same as outdoors. And just a nice methodical development, no rush to her performance. And I think it's a little bit easier when you do that when you're out west. Kind of difficult to do that in the SEC and the ACC. However, her development at Oregon has just been duly noted because she was primarily a 100-meter sprinter. She was a good hurler, but she was better off as a sprinter, and she chose to go to Oregon for that reason. But the coaching at Oregon has been top tier, and it showed here in the 100 hurdles this season. Now, moving to the 400 hurdles, we have Kyla or Kayla Garrett of South Carolina. And after finishing second last year to Savannah Sutherland of Michigan, who wrote the NCAA record, she has sort of dominated the 400 hurdles all year long. And she's kind of went unchallenged for most part. Now, she was challenged here. She did win it 53-32, and on her heels was Amelia Burdo of Texas 53-60. And I believe that is an not an NCAA, but a Texas school record. And there have been a lot of great 400 hurdlers coming out of Texas, especially during the Bev Kearney years, and including Miss Garrett herself, who competed at Texas last year. But Miss Garrett has ran an incredible season, an incredible campaign. She has put the 400 hurdle crown back at South Carolina, which had a few under Coach Curtis Fry, most notably from Lashonda Demas. And do we think she'll have a similar professional career as Lashonda Demas? Let's hope that hers is even better. But she's certainly the class of the field, a great bright spot for Team USA in the future because it's very clear that we've got a great 400 hurdler within our midst. Will she come back? She has another year of eligibility, so remains to be seen. But she certainly lived up to the hype that she developed when she was a high schooler. She was an incredible low hurdler as a high schooler, and it's kind of come over very well as a collegiate athlete. Moving to the 4x1, and I did mention that it left some of the athletes gas, and that's because of those performances. We had three teams go sub 42: USC, Georgia, and South Carolina. And I'm sorry, USC, Georgia, and LSU. Um, I don't even think we've seen this frequently, even on the pro circuit. So for us to see it in the collegiate circuit just blew my mind. And hats off to USC almost breaking the NCAA record. But three sub 42-second performances, all 41s, and USC just really, really strong. Brianna Selby ran, I believe, a great anchor leg, and she held off a charging Shanti Jackson, who ran the best anchor leg of anybody. LSU was clearly in third, and she hawked all the way down to that 41.74 for second. She made up whatever ground LSU had lost by the time she got to the stick, and she almost won it. She's proven to have quite a little jet boost in her legs because when she gets a hit of steam, it's hard to fight her off. Uh, I was shocked at Georgia, just to tell you the truth. Even though I went with USC, I thought Georgia would still give them a better race on that anchor. Um, but USC, better exchanges, far more consistent, wasn't moved at all. Just from legs one through anchor, led every single leg except for the second, because we know in that second leg, Adeja Hodge ate up for Georgia. But that third leg, Madison White was an all-time third leg. Whatever Adeja gained, Madison took it right back and destroyed that curve. And Brianna Selby did not lose that lead. So hats off to USC and the coaching staff there for an incredible 4x1 performance this season. And thank you for making my prediction look good. And the 4x4 was not a surprise at all. I don't think any one of us were shocked who won. Arkansas wins it. But I think we were more impressed with the time. Number two all time, 3:18.88. Arkansas now has the was it three fastest, and they are the only school to have a sub 320 team, and they've now done it twice. 3:18.88, and I believe it took three. I repeat, three sub 50-second legs, and that includes the 800-meter star Sanu Jallo, who anchored with, I believe, a 49 point. I mean, this was an incredible squad. We've known that all year long. We knew that indoors. They've changed the relay order, and I feel that this order was probably the best that we've seen. It made the most consistent, and they were challenged from the gun. Georgia gave them every bit that they could, running that 320.9. So that wasn't a slouch performance by Georgia by no means. That was an incredible relay. The 4x4 always excites, but this year it especially excited on both men's and women's side. And the times were even more incredible. That 3:18.88 stood out to me. And I just was like, they ran sub 320 again. Back to, back. Is this back to back? Nope. 2024, now 2026. But this is now back to back to back to back winning the 4x4. Impressive job by Coach Johnson and the Arkansas staff. Now, moving to the 800, we'll talk about that 800 star that anchored the 4x4 for Arkansas, Sanu Jalou, who, as expected, broke the NCAA record, running at 156, number one all time. But I think the other thing is young Haley of Penn State also ran under the NCAA record, moving a thing move to three all time. That was an incredible 800. I believe every athlete in the field dipped under 2 minutes, and so that's the measuring stick. To be elite now at the Division I collegiate level on the women's 800, you have to get under 2 minutes. This year, it kind of cemented that, and that 156 was just simply impressive. She's had a far better outdoor season than I think she had indoors. I think she did a lot more speed work indoors, and it's paying off because the end of her races, she looks very strong. She looks more than capable. And she's keeping that middle distance legacy that developed at Arkansas alive. I think, to me, she was the best distance performance by the Arkansas women at all because, through the changes of Coach Johnson, that's an area that has kind of, to me, weakened. But I think they're going to come back because those Arkansas distance runners are young. Expect for them to return back and be prepared because Arkansas is developing a monster. Now, moving to the 1500, very talented young lady, Rosemary Longisa of Washington State. She came into this meet number one. She's been number one all season long, and she didn't do anything to alleviate that. She's just been the lead. She's been the champion. She was the easy prediction, even with a great field, even with it being on Oregon's home track. And they had Juliet and Silyan and just a bevy of great milers being coached very, very well there at Oregon, but none could compete with Rosemary. And yes, she's at Washington State. Yes, Washington State got rid of all their sprinters and jumpers and throwers and just have a distance program. At least for now, they can hang their hat on. They developed a 1,500-meter NCAA champion against one of the great mile squads ever at the University of Oregon. Now, moving to the steeplechase, I was really happy with this young lady because I did predict her to win, and that is Miss Taylor Lavelle of BYU. She did go into the meet number two or number three. With no Doris Lemon it was a little bit easier for me to predict, and I was happy to see her win it. BYU had, I'm not going to say a bad weekend, although they didn't have some wins that they thought they would have. They still had an impressive weekend from their distance runners, and she was, I think, the highlight. Obviously, she walks away as the NCAA champion in the steeplechase, an event that to me was kind of left open once Doris moved to the 5K. But she didn't disappoint. She ran a great race, very smart, against a very strong field. Even without Doris, the field was still solid. I mean, Sophie Novak of Notre Dame was in that race, a great steeplechase runner in her own right. But Taylor, I think, was just a class of the field. She proved it this weekend with the NCAA title. Moving to the 5K, and we had a bit of controversy. You expect for me to say Doris Lemon at this point. And she technically did win the race, but she was disqualified, stepping two spots outside of the line in the women's steeplechase. And, much to everybody's shock and, dare I say it, chagrin, um, she did not win the 5K. She was DQ'd, and instead it went to Marian Jepikatich of New Mexico. And New Mexico, just one of those strong programs from a non-Power Four conference, but they produce NCAA champions on the regular. Marion runs a 15-minute .1301 run, a personal best, to outduel defending champion Pamela Koskei and a number of great 5K runners. Jane Hedengren did not run her best race, but she had a very busy weekend. Running the 5 and 10K as a freshman is tough. I think she was gassed after that very competitive 10K. And this is the reason why I'm not going to say didn't, BYU had a disappointing weekend, because to me it wasn't disappointing. It just, I think Jane learned how difficult that double is. It's insane. But hats off to Marian Jepikantich of New Mexico, and hats off to the New Mexico staff because she trains with Pamela Koskei, and they're both sophomores. So, scary thing for the future. I wonder what this New Mexico squad is going to look like in fall for the cross country season. Hats off to you, Marian. What a great run. And now moving to the 10K that did happen on Thursday. And Jane finished third, but it was Merceline Kerwa of Iowa State. She was able to outduel Jane and Pamela Koskei, who finished second in this race. 31 minutes, 54.88 seconds. Not even a personal best, but still one of the best performances of the season. Ran a smart race, and Pamela and Jane just did not have an answer for her. So hats off to Merceline and the coaching staff at Iowa State for, of course, finding a way to get an NCAA champion. Iowa State, one of the great distance programs, so it should not shock us that they found a way to have another distance star. All right, so let's move off the track and into the field and look at the high jump. So, of course, I'm talking about Timmy Tope. Um, I just Timmy Tope Adeshina of Texas Tech has been having a season. She hasn't lost a single challenge at all this year. She has lived up to the hype that has surrounded her name, and she even had a competitive final. Her primary competition was Rose Jabot of Illinois, as expected. They both were able to clear 6 feet 5, 1.96 meters, but Timmy Tope was able to achieve that clearance in less effort. So hats off to Timmy Tope and the coaching staff at Texas Tech. I think they had some mixed results this weekend, but this was one of their highlights. And I don't know if she's going to come back next year. She has another year of eligibility. And it's, we're seeing more athletes stay now because of NIL and there's, encouragement, finish your degree. But with a mark like that and her consistency at getting near this mark or surpassing it, I think it says she may be ready to go on to the professional ranks. We'll see. We know Rose for a fact it will be going on, but Timmy told us another year, and I look forward to seeing what her decision will be. The pole vault, where things got interesting. Of course, we have the Mole sisters, Hannah and Amanda. I did go with Hannah, and Amanda ended up winning. I'm gonna be honest and say there's no shock there. I don't think anybody listening to this is even remotely shocked, especially those of us who follow the pole vault. Amanda Mole, 15 feet, 10.5 inches, sets a meet record and a collegiate record outdoors, 4.84 meters. So now she has both the indoor and the outdoor record. Even though her sister has led cover to cover all season, and her sister finished second, jumping 15 feet, 6.5 inches, 4.74 meters. Her sister was just a meter better. So, or just, I should say, a thousandth of a meter better. Um, Hats off to the Washington Huskies. 18 points off one event has to feel pretty good in a meet where points are at a premium. Moving on to the long jump, where we had an NCAA record that had, I should say, meet record that stood forever, and that's Alyssa Jones of Stanford breaking the NCAA meet record. Not the NCAA record, but the meet record, jumping 23 feet, 2 inches, 7.06 meters. Incredible mark for her. I know that we thought Sophia Beckman was going to match her indoor and outdoor, and it just didn't happen that way. Alyssa Jones has dominated pretty much majority of the outdoor season. Once she took the lead, she never let it go, and she's just been performing at a high level pretty much all year long. This was her second time jumping over 23 feet. And no athlete in the field jumped even 22 feet. In fact, second was Shantae Foreman, who we'll talk about in a minute. But hats off to Alyssa and to Stanford. She's a senior. What a way to end your career at Stanford. Now, like I said, we'll talk about Shantae Foreman now of Clemson. She is the NCAA champion, the triple jump. Another great pick by me. I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. I've seen Shantae Foreman several times in person, and she is a tall, lanky triple jumper, but she has excellent technique, very poised. She has a great energy about her. You can sense the positive energy. I felt that when I saw her for the first time at the ACC Championships in 2024. I have videos of her on this channel. But I've seen her a number of times at the pin relays, and she's just so consistent, very focused, has a positive energy about her. And she took to her last jump. It took her very last jump because Sharifa Davranova of Oregon had took the lead on her last jump, 46.5 1/4, and I thought, oh man. But on the last jump, Shantae Foreman, 46 feet, 8.75 inches, 14.24 meters. A personal best for her, and the new collegiate lead, of course, would lead to the collegiate national title. Strong performance by her with a incredible field. You had a total of 6 athletes go over the 44-foot mark, and you had a young freshman, Destiny Smith, who finished third, jumping 45.3 for Kansas State. I mentioned her as the dark horse, and I'm feeling really good because I think she and Sharif are the future of this event. Moving on from the triple jump, we will head to the shot put. And man, Axelina, I know you didn't want to leave any doubt, but dang, she's really been dominant this year. And we've all heard me mention consistently that Nebraska is probably the best school at the technical side of track and field, and it looked that way for Axelina Johansson of Nebraska. A meet record in the shot put, yes, 65 feet 4.25 inches, 19.92 meters. At one point, I really did think she was going to hit 20 meters. She did not. Pretty close, but the reason why I said dang girls because I wasn't thinking she was going to need to do a meet record. She won the event by more than 6 feet. Well, almost 6 feet. But I'll say more than 5 feet. Hats off to her. What a great season. What a great career she's had. Choosing to transfer to Nebraska worked in her favor tremendously. Moving on to the discus, we'll talk about the woman that finished third in the shot put, and I did predict this one as well. Alita Von Dalen, the junior at the University of Florida. 216 feet 6 inches in the discus, 65.98 meters. She won by a full 6 meters and literally almost 20 feet. An extremely dominant performance, a meet record. I believe this is number two all time in the discus, and she has another year to go. I don't know if she's going to come back to compete for the University of Florida. Florida throwers have done that, and I would really hope to see her do that because I think that she's capable of next year pulling off the double. Can she win the shot put in disc? I think she can. I think she's very capable. Um, and I think she'll prove that next year. But she certainly made a tremendous predictor out of me, finishing first in the discus and third in the shot put. Now, moving on from the discus, we'll talk about the no, the hammer throw. In the hammer, I did get it wrong. I'll yield to that. Antoinette Nabwe did finish second, but barely. She threw 240 feet even, 73.15 meters, but it was Elizabeth Renner's daughter of Texas State, 240 feet, 1 inch, one whole inch, 73.19 meters. Incredible throw by her. Texas State really developing a strong throwing program because her teammate Laura Roberts finished sixth in this very same event. So 13 points for the whole team for Texas State. But Elizabeth Brenner's daughter, what a strong performance. Because I thought for sure, for sure, Antoinette Nabwe was going to walk out of there as a victor. All right. And moving to another throwing event I got wrong. And I thought I had this one in the bag, and that will be the women's javelin. I did predict Evelyn Bliss of Bucknell, and she did not. She came in second, still gave a great performance in the javelin. I thought, you know, darn, 197 feet 9 inches, but not enough to take down Michaela Vander Westhuizen of Rice, 199 feet 8 inches, 60.87 meters. I did mention her as a competitor, but I thought it was all Evelyn. And I was wrong. Michaela, hats off to you. Strong win for Rice. It took a personal best for her to win it, and now's the time to do that. This is the meet to run a personal best because when you are at your best, you give yourself the best chance to win, and she did. All right, moving to our last throwing event, and that is to not the javelin, I'm sorry, the last event overall, and that is to the heptathlon. And what a competition it was for the women because it came down to the last event. Um, I I really saw that leaderboard constantly fluctuate. Even at one point, I looked because of course, I'm keeping an eye on the Florida people, so I was looking at Pauline Bakimbo, and I'm like, oh my God, she may finish as a first team All American. She may score, and she ran a PR in the 800. It just wasn't enough, but it did help shift things up. The person I picked, Juliet Lara Quinta Webner of Cincinnati, she finished strong but was only able to get to second. But it took a personal best in the new NCAA lead from Sofia Quasculela of Washington. Yes, another victory for Washington. They had two wins this weekend. So we're looking just in just two events, 28 points, and that's a lot. In a meet again where points are a premium. 6,182 points. She finished third in the 100 hurdles, 16th in the high jump, sixth in the shot put, sixth in the 200, won the long jump in the HEP competition, second in the javelin, and finished 11th in the 800. Strong performance by her. Hats off to Miss Sophia from the University of Washington. You really put it out there because going into that final event, I was certain that Juliet was going to catch you, and you said, "Nah, I'm going to make sure I have enough to secure this in the bag." Congratulations. And now we move on to the team title competition where things got very interesting. In the team title competition, we're looking at the University of Georgia run away with it. And I shouldn't say run away with it, but win it again. They scored a total of 50 points, and not a 90 or 80 point performance that many thought. Points are at a premium. This meet they scored 50. Things went wrong for Georgia, things went wrong for Florida, things went wrong for Arkansas, and things went wrong for Oregon, but those were your top four teams. Washington only had those two events, the pole vault and the heptathlon, and they finished seventh overall because they walked away with 28 points. Points were really at a premium and they were extremely hard to come by, which is why one of the best ways to win this meet is to make sure you have as many entries as possible. We we always laugh when that data point comes out on social media from whether it's Runner Space or Diestat or the USFTFCCCCA, all those C's from whoever it sends it out, but they always give us the average or the total amount of entries per program. And I laugh because the comments will often have one major comment that says that doesn't matter. And I laugh because every year the meet proves that it does. South Carolina would have loved to have had as many entries as Georgia. And we look at last year, that many entries is the reason why Georgia was dominant. It was a noticeable difference between them and everyone else. The amount of entries you have really can determine your position. And 50 points was all that Georgia needed because Florida at 43, and that's with things not going well for Florida. No points in any of the other throwing events outside the shot put and discus. None in the javelin, none in the hammer throw, and they had competitors in both. No one scored in the heptathlon. They didn't get a finalist in any of the sprints. I'm sorry, not in the 400, but they did get Gabby Matthews in the 100 and 200. They didn't get a 4x1. I believe finished fifth or sixth in the 4x4. They still were able to score 43 points. I think the future is bright for the Florida Gators. They have to sort of sharpen, I think, their depth. They need more sprint depth. They're going to have to deal with the loss of Hilda Olamomoy. And they need to figure out what to do with those hurdlers. They have not had a great women's hurdler since Grace Stark, and having Habiba Harris miss the entire year really hurt. I think if she was out, she would have at least finished second or won it. And that would have made all the difference for Florida this season. If they have Abiba Harris, you're probably looking at the NCAA championship team. Congratulations to Coach Carol Smith Gilbert, all those NCAA records, that great team performance. Hats off to your coaching staff and to you. And to all the fans, I have one more video in regards to this season coming out. It's the men's recap. Don't worry, we are going to talk about the hurdles video along with a video on each program or programs that develop well in a certain event. That's going to come. But thank you. Comment, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video where we recap the men. And I hope you enjoyed what was a fantastic 2026 NCAA season.